now available in paperback and e-readers. Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. The goddess next door takes on the threat of a deadly digital diva driven to destroy the world in this action-packed, all-new Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess featuring a bonus pin-up and the other 2 books in the Cyber Goddess saga at online bookstores everywhere today. One of my viewers wanted me to discuss a debate that has been going on for many decades in the comic book world. And this debate that's been going on in the comic book world is all about Stan Lee versus Jack Kirby and who is the greater creator. Now, your Stan Lee back in the 1960s created the Marvel Age of Comics with the aid of artists like Jack Kirby and Don Heck and your Steve Ditko. And with this team of artists, Stan Lee was able to go out here and create an entire new era for comics after the dark period of the 1950s and ushered in a new age of superheroes. Now, some comic fans say that Stan Lee is the greater creator because he was the writer who created all of these characters, while others debate that Jack Kirby was one of the great creators because he created the visual images of all of these characters. But when I go out here and I look at the work of both your Stan Lee and your Jack Kirby, I can see how both men were truly great. Now, as someone who has studied the novel, the screenplay, and the comic book as related to the writing paradigms, I can say that Stan Lee is a truly great writer. Now, the reason why I say Stan Lee is a truly great writer is because he created the structure for the foundation of the Marvel Universe. Now, some people debate whether Stan Lee is a greater creator because all he did with the Marvel technique for writing was create an outline for the story for many of the comics produced at Marvel. Now, Marvel was producing anywhere from 12 to 13 titles, including the Marvel superheroes and other books like Sergeant Fury, Patsy Walker, and Millie the Model, and many others at the time. So Stan didn't really have the time to put fingers to a keyboard for a script for all of those books that were coming out of Marvel Comics during the 60s. And because they didn't have time to go out here and craft scripts, what Stan would do is create an outline for a comic book, and then as he was creating that outline, he would then hand it to an artist, and then the artist would go out here and create the panels for the story based on Stan's outline. And then once they created the art for the panels from Stan's outline, then Stan would come back and create the dialogue for the comic. And the reason why they would do this, again, is because they had 12, 13, 14, 15 titles coming out, and maybe even more in a month. So they had to go out here and get these books out very quickly. So the artist didn't have much to work with as related to your structure for story. So they had to imagine what things would look like and where things would go and put things together in sequence just based off the outline. And that's why some people would say that Jack Kirby was a great artist because he created many of the visuals for these characters that we all know, like Spider-Man, Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, Daredevil, the Hulk. I mean, Steve Ditko created Spider-Man's visuals, but the whole thing is, there's a lot of people want to say that Jack Kirby was a greater creator than Stan Lee, but again, I can see how both of them were truly great creators, and they were working together in synergy with each other. Now, the reason why I say they worked in synergy is because without Stan's structure, Jack would have nothing to create the form of the characters, and without Stan's words, Jack would have nothing to create the visuals. So, as I see it, both creators equally contributed to the characters, and while more people would say, oh, the popping visuals were from Jack Kirby, or were really what made Marvel Comics great, I really can't go with that argument because Steve Ditko and Don Heck also had to work off of Stan's scripts. So without Stan's foundation for structure, many of the artists wouldn't really have anything to wrap form around. And in order for the Marvel to create great comics, as I see it, they both had to work together because you needed Stan's words in order for Jack's art to have something to pop from, and you needed Stan's premises in order for Jack's to have the idea for the right sequence. Now, there's a lot of imagination an artist has to have in telling a story. So I also give Jack credit and Steve Ditko and Don Heck credit, because if it wasn't for them going out here and being able to envision how these words coming to life, we wouldn't have a lot of these characters coming to life. Now, I myself understand why a lot of people are having this debate of Stan Lee versus Jack Kirby, because as a creator myself, I know how a lot of people can really get emotional about a creator's work, because I myself, as a creator, I know that, as a writer, you can come up with these great concepts, but oftentimes those great concepts don't really come to life until you get together with a really great artist. And I know from my experience working with Mike Williams on John Haynes covers that sometimes an artist can take an idea from a writer like myself and take it to the next level. For example, sometimes when Mike and I are working on covers and we're just discussing things in messaging, he'll take an idea I have for a cover and he'll take it to another level. The same thing when I'm working with Bill Walko on a cover. I'll go to him and I'll give him a storyboard for a cover. I'll give him model sheets for the characters, and he'll come out here and make something absolutely fantastic. And the artist, again, they bring these characters to life that writers like myself, we can just come up with the words for it, but they can take the pictures to another level, like what Bill Walko did in a recent comic that I worked with him on, the E-Steam No Good Deed comic. He took that comic that I took from a simple script that I did that was 9 pages, and he brought it completely to life and made it practically feel like an animated short. So when you have a great artist and you have great synergy with an artist, they can take your words and turn them into very dynamic and fantastic pictures. And that's the other part that a lot of people don't understand about the Stan Lee versus Jack Kirby debate. What happens with Stan Lee and Jack Kirby is they became a team, and as they became a team, they synergized when they were working together, and they practically knew each other's style, so they knew how to work with each other, and they knew how to really just tell a story that was very compelling. Because I know from my own personal experience working with Bill Walko on the E-Steam No Good Deed comic strip, he practically translated everything as related to camera angles from what I just wrote in a simple script. So that's one of the things that tells me that we have a very good synergy, because when you have an artist who can take an idea that you present in a picture and then bring it to life just as I imagined, that really, again, shows great synergy. And that was one of the things I started to notice when I worked with Bill on the Isis Bride of Dracula cover. The Isis Bride of Dracula cover basically was like something taken straight out of my imagination and brought to the page. And that when you have a good synergistic relationship with an artist, that they can take what you write in a script and just bring it directly to life in pictures, and the camera angles and everything will be absolutely perfect. And that's one of the things that Stan Lee and Jack Kirby had with each other, was that great synergy, that great chemistry. And that's why I say both men were equally great as related to creating the Marvel Universe, because in order for you to be able to create fantastic comics with fantastic adventures, you have to have a really good working relationship with your artist. And in order for them to take your story and translate it into pictures, both of you have to really know what you want and be on the same page creatively. And that's why I just can't say one is better than the other, because both are equally great and both equally brought something to the table that the other couldn't. Because I know myself as a writer, I know how to write great stories, creating pictures with words, but the real challenge is that I really appreciate from artists like Mike Williams and Bill Walko and many others out here is the ability to take my words and turn them into pictures. That's something I always wanted to do ever since I was 9-10 years old, but I could never really do it because I didn't know how to draw very well. And I wanted to make comics again ever since I was 9 years old, but I really appreciate what many great comic artists do, and I really appreciate a great relationship with a comic artist, because a great relationship between a writer and an artist can create really great work, like in the case of a Stan Lee and a Jack Kirby, or a Denny O'Neil and a Neil Adams, or a Chris Claremont and a John Byrne. When you get a team that really just comes together and synergizes, they can go out here and create masterful comics like the ones in the X-Men run of Claremont and Byrne, the Lee and Kirby Fantastic Four, the Michelini and Layton Iron Man with John Romita Jr., and even the Frank Miller Daredevil. Once you get a great, or the O'Neil and Adams Batman, once you get creators out here who can just really work together and have a good working partnership, and they really can synergize with each other, you can really get some really great and fantastic work. And you just can't say that it's one individual that is greater than the other, because it's a team effort that comes together to bring that book to life and make those characters pop off those single images like they are moving. So when I look at the whole Lee versus Kirby debate, I can't really take a side, because both creators, as I see it, are equally great, and both creators really contributed to one of the greatest ages of comic books in the history of the medium. Now, if you want to see me make more videos like this talking about comics, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to pick up some of my first comic, like Easting No Good Deed, which is available on Amazon.com's Kindle for 99 cents, you can pick up a copy by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to pick up some of my other books on the SJS Direct imprint, like the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, the John Haynes series, and the books of the Spinsterella trilogy, The Thetas and A Recipe for Success, you can find all of those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them on Smashwords, the iBook Store, and Google Play. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, Taking Care of Business. The man who rules the world breaks in a brand new partner to help him take care of business in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get John Haynes, Taking Care of Business at paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere.